Matt and Darian, who are from LinQuest Corporation, and they are going to talk to us about computer science today and what they do for their company, and specifically what they do, Matt and Darian, in their internships. So Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you take it from here.
Great. Thanks, Cassie. Yeah, so Darian, Matt, and I work for LinQuest Corporation. Previously, we worked for a local company in Dayton area called the Perduco Group, which was acquired by LinQuest Corporation. And so I'm just going to introduce them and spend a few moments describing, from my point of view as a manager, the advantages of having technical interns. I'll talk specifically about Matt and Darian, and then we'll do some Q&A with them and allow them to answer, totally unfiltered. So first I'm going to share my screen. I have a slide here. Can you all see the PowerPoint slide? Yes. Okay. Oop, I probably need this back. Okay. So I'm a graduate of Wright State University in Dayton, and I graduated with a degree in electrical engineering, and I had a technical internship that served me very well. So I knew the advantage, and it definitely helped prepare me for not only graduate school, but then for my first salaried position, which I was a government civilian at the Air Force Institute of Technology. So it was really invaluable for me. And I had a close friend / advisor / professor at Wright State named Dr. Fred Garber. And he took me under his wing, looked out for me, and he helped broker that technical internship, actually multiple technical internships. So I'm a beneficiary of a strong internship in the field of study that I was pursuing. So when I kind of became a manager for Perduco, I was looking for ways to grow a pipeline because we were growing as a company, and we only had about 4 software developers at the time. And so I knew that we weren't only going to be able to address this need by hiring, we needed to also start building a pipeline. And so I hired someone named Derek, who Matt and Darian work with, and he was the first intern. And he went to school at Wright State, graduated with a computer science degree, and throughout the year he worked for us. So while he was in school, he would work anywhere from 10 to 20 hours per week, depending on how rigorous his semester was. And then generally speaking, over summers and long breaks, he would work more like 40 hours a week. So it worked out so well that I hired Derek's roommate, a guy named Nate. And that worked out so well that I started looking on Handshake, and I follow Wright State on Handshake, and this resume popped up for a guy named Matt Eilerman. I was really impressed. He was a very high performer. So I took Matt out to eat, and I brought Derek and Nate, and I wanted them to kind of size him up and see, could he hang with these other interns? And he could. And right away, we thrust Matt into a difficult project, honestly. And within a week, Derek and Nate said, "Man, he's really pulling his weight, and we're surprised." So we've hired other interns as well, but fast forward about a year, and Matt comes into my office and says, "Hey, I have a really good friend. He's a really hard worker, and I think he'd be great here as an intern." I said, "Well, that helps a lot." The point of this story is hiring is all about managing uncertainty. And so, the fact that I got to know Matt, he's a high character individual. I trust his judgment because I see, the actions that he takes. And he's saying, I know a hardworking, high character guy. Well, that's step one. So now I've reduced uncertainty around that. We interviewed Darian. It was an awesome, he did a great job. It was a no-brainer. So we brought Darian on board, and now he's been on board with us for over a year. So that, from my vantage point, I created the pipeline that I wanted. We've hired almost everyone. We've tried to hire everyone. We've hired almost everyone that's been an intern for us once they graduated. I've tried to do things to make sure that the focus stays on graduation and on school. I think that's got to be the number one priority. But I hope what they can describe today shows how work complements what they're learning and vice versa. So I've got a variety of questions here, but before I get into it, I'd like to turn it over to Matt. How about you go first and just real fast give a quick overview of who you are and anything else.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Matt. And as Tom was just saying, I've been with Produco, which was then renamed LinkWest since May 21st of 2019. I've had the pleasure of doing lots of web development with the company. And when I say web development specifically, I've mostly used React, which is a JavaScript framework. Super cool technology that I've gained a lot of experience in. When I first came on, I did some stuff in C# with Derek and Nate, as Tom was describing. So just lots of cool opportunities to expand my knowledge and skill set, and just get to know lots of amazing people that I've gotten to work with. Just learn what other people are doing in the company, and really just be on a team, a team that is striving for customer satisfaction and just excellence in everything that we do. And it's been an honor to be able to work with everyone, and very valuable to my career.
Well, thanks, Matt. Jeez, that was awesome. All right, so Darian, how about you? See if you can top that.
All right.
He used the word. He said it was an honor to work with our team.
Hey everyone, my name is Darian Ward. Currently also here at Produco with Matt Eilerman and with Tom, our manager. I've been here since March 9th of 2020. I've been here for a little over a year now. When I actually first came to Produco, I first started doing back-end development is what I got involved into. And back-end development usually revolves around like different programming languages. I was specifically using a programming language called Python. And the program was really, really amazing opportunity that I got involved into. I currently now, as Matt was speaking about, he uses JavaScript. I also am using JavaScript and using React on the project that I'm working on currently for the company. And I have to agree with Matt. It really is an honor and a wonderful opportunity just to be able to even work with Produco. One of the biggest things that Produco has to offer is working with a very friendly team environment. So like anytime that I've gotten stuck on any problems when working on a project that has been given, I can easily go and ask any questions that I need to any team member that's always available. And it's all about just getting it done and making the making the customer happy is the most important thing. Yeah.
Great. All right, I'll go right back to you, Darian. So describe anyone at our company that has tried to help mentor you, and just shortly what that's like having a more senior person work with you and what you've learned.
So the person that I had mentor me at Produco, her name is Zuli Rhodes. She's amazing. What it means to truly be under somebody who is definitely at a higher level than you. They know like way much more. They've been programming a lot longer. They've been introduced to a lot more projects, introduced to a lot more opportunities to talk with the customer, because it's all about delivering a very quality product to the customer when developing. So Zuli, the biggest thing that she has introduced to me is really all about consistency. When you're performing programming and you're under someone, it's all about delivering not just quality work, but delivering it also on time. So making sure that you're consistent with like your time management when you're developing, as well as learning honestly a lot. So taking as many notes as possible was always encouraged from her. You definitely want to practice it as much as possible when it comes to development, because when you end up practicing a lot, it ends up helping out later in the long run, when being introduced to new programming languages, when being introduced to different projects that you may have to work on, and that I have also had to work on, has probably been the most important thing. It's definitely the learning aspect.
Awesome, thanks. All right, I'm gonna kick one over to Matt. So Matt, describe just a typical day in the life for you.
Yeah, so a typical day in the college life, also being an intern, it's honestly great. I've gotten to, it's really flexible. I'm thankful to my company and to Tom for that I'm able to form my own schedule around my classes. And so a typical day looks like, if I have class that day, I'll get up and get ready to go to class. And then a lot of times, depending on the semester, I might have a break in between classes to where I can work for a few hours, whether that's going into the office or since the COVID era, sometimes working from home as well. And then I'll get ready for my next class. And after everything is all said and done, I'll resort to any hobbies or extracurriculars that I have going on. And so, yeah, that's kind of a general overview of a day in my life.
Okay, now real quick, describe your current project and sort of your team composition. And you're working, what, about 16 hours a week right now?
Yeah, about that. And yeah, so a little under 20 hours, but my current team is it's a little bit smaller team than I was on before. I was on a larger team previously with about 15 to 20 people in total, and now I'm just working with a few, like 4 or 5. And so that's definitely been a cool experience as well, getting to know people and work more directly with the same people consistently. Definitely good to see what kind of things that they're doing. And so, there are some other team members I'm with that have a lot of expertise in areas that I don't necessarily, such as back end work, which is kind of what Darion was describing with Python. And so I'll get to ask questions and in meetings, see what everybody's up to. So it's a really good time to be able to both share what I'm doing and learn what others are doing, and really just expand my knowledge and skill set through that.
Well, that's great. Now I want a little more specific, like, because I know what you do on Army pricing. So just describe in, elevator pitch, like the role that you're filling right now that we need from you.
Yeah, so I'm currently on a project called Army Pricing, and specifically I'm using React JavaScript to essentially rebuild the front end for this application. And so the application as a whole aims to deliver basically efficient pricing and insights to the customers. A lot of the customers are military, Army, Air Force, things like that. And so they really benefit from the technical insights that we can provide. And specifically, my role on the team is to make the application easy to use, look nice, and function with the more technical backend that others have developed on the team. And trying to do that in a timely manner with the time that I have. And yeah, just really create a nice user experience.
Awesome. All right, Darian, I want to ask you, um, what's the biggest difference between, working on a project at school in computer science and working in a team like your HMI team?
Yeah. So, okay. So let's start with school. So working at on a project at school, you're usually giving a deadline. Usually it ranges from somewhere between like a week to like 2 weeks to do it. And it really just depends on how big the project is. So that's the first thing, is the deadline. The second thing is that the project is usually based off around some type of topic that has to deal with something that you'll be using later in your career. So like um, let's take like if I had a project in like a class called data structures, for example, which is what Matt and I both had to do. You learned a lot of different data structures that are implemented in different projects, such as whether it's like projects that you're working on at school that you can use the data structures for, or whether it's like in the real world, whether it's at work, at a company. And so that's like two of the things, is the deadline and then is like the different topics. But coming into like work more so, it still has deadlines, but it's more organized in a more team oriented way. So you use something called agile, which is not the only way to organize a project, but it is one way to organize a project, to where you're given like you're on a point-based system, which is an agile, and then you have to complete that specific, you're given each a task that you have to complete in agile, and then from there the team all comes together, completes the work, and it's done in also like a 1 to 2 weeks, sometimes longer than that, period. But it's basically just a way of organizing your workload, especially when coming onto a team. Whereas working at school, it's very individual based. Like you're given a project from your professor, you got to finish it at whatever time, and you have to learn all the material and so forth, and ask questions and whatnot with the professor. But it's very individual based, and that's the like the difference between the two. But nonetheless, like when working at school, all the things that you learn from school are implemented in work and like in the real world aspect. But also too, all the things that you learn from work can also be then re-implemented back into school, because you learn like literally everything that you take away from school, the time management, like everything that is learned in class is used in the real world. So
Yeah, that's great. All right, I'm gonna stick with you, Darian. So, so why computer science? And to everyone that's going to be watching or is watching now, what are the advantages that you see as for this as a career field?
So, computer science it's very, of course, technology based, and specifically with computer science, you're more doing like software development. Computer science is huge in the industry right now, as far as in the growing world of today. Technology is very I guess like everybody uses technology, and computer science, you can take computer science and you can take so many different paths with it. You can go into like gaming development, you can build like applications with apps, whether it's like iOS or whether it's like Android. You can even go into gaming development in iOS and Android if you wanted to. You can get real deep and you can go into like machine learning, and you can get into things like data visualization. There's so many different things that you can use with computer science, but computer science really does have a true I guess like it really has like, it never will have like a dim light as far as like where it's going. Everybody will have to have computer scientists. So like software development and anything that has to do with technology is always going to be widely used with how the world is now. And it's just very, I don't know, it's just amazing. It's great.
Thanks. All right, Matt, last question for you, and then we'll see if there's any questions from the crowd. Otherwise, we can end with a couple parting shots. So, Matt, what advice would you give to a senior in high school or a freshman in college, you know, that may be interested in a technical career field?
Yeah. Personally, I would say, man, just find what you're passionate about and then learn as much about that as you possibly can, even before you're done with high school, even before you go to college. I know that was my experience and something that really benefited me in my career. And yeah, I was able to just I discovered computer programming, I think when I was about 13. Did a little bit with it and then got more serious with it when I was about 15. And that experience that I had just from like online tutorials and things like that and doing hobbies on the side, like programming, that really helped me sort of get ahead of the curve going into college eventually, to where it just allows you to focus on the new material even more when you get to college. And so if you already have a head start with coding or just math and logic things in general, you're gonna be able to excel in that regard, because any new content that you learn in your classes, you'll be able to deep dive into that more, and really come away with more from your classes.
Okay, well, we can pause there. We have about 4 minutes. If there's any questions that Patty, if anyone submitted, or if anyone wants to ask something right now of Matt and Darian or me.
Yeah, Matt and Darian, this is Cassie. I have a quick question. You know, regarding the things that you can do, you know, maybe in middle school or high school to prepare yourself or to kind of test out the field, would you recommend, you know, any online courses, any certifications, that sort of thing?
Yeah, sure. As far as certifications go, personally, I'm not taking this route, but I know that Wright State specifically does offer like a cybersecurity certificate that a lot of people opt for alongside their computer science degree. And then there's also minor programs. I have completed a minor in mathematics as sort of a supplement to my computer science knowledge. And then in terms of any other online courses, I know there's lots of fairly inexpensive things like on Udemy, and just even free things on YouTube is personally a way that I learned a lot as a high school student, is free YouTube tutorials. And then if you really want some more structure, you can buy like a class for $20 to $30 on Udemy or something to learn more about like web development using React.js and whatnot.
Yeah, fantastic. And I see a question from Jill French. We have not ever considered high school interns. And there's some of that has to do with our clients, you know, being the US government. We do have in our industry labor categories, which often require at least a high school education. So if we were to consider a high school intern, it'd probably be used in a different capacity than the way we use like Darian and Matt right now, where they are directly interfacing with clients and working with professional teams. We would consider high school interns to help us out with improving processes and administrative tasks and things like that. Yeah, I don't know if it would be as enriching for them, but it would at least get exposure to a professional setting. And thanks for that answer, Matt. I'll add to that. I mean, some of the best programmers I've ever met started dabbling when they were children. They really did. You know, their parents gave them a PC, and parents didn't know what they were doing with it. And, you know, they learned whether it was to make a video game for themselves, um, or they joined some online community that creates different things. There's lots of opportunities today, way more so than in past. It's a very low barrier to entry to get involved in computer science. Right now, for $60, you can buy a thing called a Raspberry Pi 400, and it's a computer built into a keyboard, and you just plug it into a TV or a monitor, and there you go. Boom, you've got an operating system. There's applications in there that encourage programming for people that aren't professionals yet. You could use that and make your own Christmas light display. You could control electronics. You could make a home theater kind of setup. And there's a lot of resources on the internet. It's really it's just an awesome time for anyone that's interested in trying to, as Darian said, the light is bright. If you can wield this power, you can do a lot of cool things. And if you're creative, there are so many opportunities for creative people to bring a good idea into the world. So are there any other questions? I see I don't want to run over someone else's time. Okay. Is now a good time to stop?
Yeah, I don't see any other questions, Tom. So we'll go ahead and knock it off here. It's exactly 3:30. So thank you again for moderating this panel. And Matt and Darian, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your journeys with us. This is going to be really valuable for students who are thinking about a career in computer science and not really sure which path to take. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.